No, I can never get enough, never get enough, I can never get enough, never get enough, I can never get enough, I can never get enough, I can never get enough, but it's my boy life, I can never get enough, never get enough, I can never get enough, never get enough, I can never get enough, I can never get enough, I can
My
never
sister
get enough,
texting me
it's my
for.
whole life, oh,
Welcome y'all to Peep Game TV and Keeping It Real team collaboration. Me and
Alright.
man Shadi, aka SRD, with my man Jay Sean, aka Mr. F Love, on this Thursday, our new night, October 16th.
Yes,
So
yes,
let's
new
get
night.
to it.
New night, a new and improved night. Yeah. You
Yeah,
got
before
about
we get
that.
started, I want to thank my niece, Nikki, for always sharing my info, sharing the show. I appreciate that. And to my other nieces, I'd like for y'all to do the same thing. All right? Let's do it.
How you feel?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good, brother.
I think it's I think it's on you.
It's
I gotta ask you. It's on you this week. 'Cause I
it's
think
on
it's
me to ask you, right?
no. I think it's me to ask you this week. I think.
Nah, I went first last
Oh,
week.
oh, you did?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, I
yeah,
can't even remember.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah, but so what's new? What's what, man?
nothing. I'm just I'm just taking it day by day. It's stressful, bro. It's stressful out here. So
Yeah,
yeah, when I get a chance to come out here, you know, and use my thoughts for something, something other than the day to day hustle or bustle, is good. It's good exercise for my mind. You know what I
okay.
mean? Because you got
Yeah.
to exercise your mind too. You can't
Oh
just
no,
exercise your body.
definitely that. Definitely that.
Yeah,
You definitely gotta do that. That's something that's a necessity,
right.
exercising your mind and things of that nature,
Yeah,
you know?
yep.
So
So that's what I do here. I exercise my mind.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's definitely a necessity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we're gonna go ahead and get right into it,
Let's do it. Let's
as
do it.
usual. Now, we know that there's a lot going on in the world. As you said, everybody got their hustle and bustle. Everybody got their things that they're going through each and every day, from work to relationships to children to all of that. We got all these things going on, you know. So with that being said, do you think social media helps or hurt how people understand the world events today?
That, that's that's a that's big. That's big right now. It's a big question. Deserve a big answer.
Okay, make it
Big
big
because
then. Make it
so
big.
so much of the world right now is social media. People capping, clickbait, catfishing, telling lies, perpetrating the fraud. Misleading everybody, and it's all being done by social media. You know what I mean? So nowadays, I
Yeah.
don't think you could believe hardly anything that's coming out on the social media. Not alone the news. I mean,
Okay.
I think I told this story a while ago when people were saying that um Dave Chappelle. Remember they were saying he turned down 100 million and he went to Africa with
He,
smoking crack.
he lost his mind, right?
They were saying he lost his mind. Uh, the background story to that is that they wanted him to do something on Netflix, and they didn't really want to pay him what he wanted them to pay him, or they couldn't get together on the prices or the royalties or whatever. They couldn't get together on it. So the powers that be, they don't like getting shut down by people. You know what I mean? The powers that be.
Yeah, big business.
So they big business here. So they told Dave Chappelle, this is a story I heard. They said before when he left Netflix, they said before you get home, the whole world, the whole world will see you as somebody who lost their mind and smoking crack. And that's what happened. That was never a true story. You know what I mean? So he never lost his mind, as we can see now. You
Right.
know, I don't know about the smoking crack, but I doubt it. But I believe they pushed that out to social media, to push that out to the world, to defame him and discredit him, and to try to destroy um his fan base, his character, his marketplace, his momentum and his life. So for me, I really don't believe anything just coming through the news or social media. I think you take it all like a grain of salt, and maybe out of 100% news, maybe 10% is real, and I think the rest is what the young people say clickbait. What you think?
I heard something about that with Dave Chappelle as well. He had did a stand up on it, and he basically said that what made him turn the money down was they, you know, the network wanted to change his skits. They wanted more input on his skits after he did seasons with his own skits.
I
You know
heard
what I
that too.
mean?
Yeah,
So he was like, look, no amount of money basically gonna let me, allow y'all to, you know, dismantle my integrity, basically.
right,
You
right.
know what I mean? Like if I'm doing what I want to do, then that's what it is. You know what I mean? But if you're going to try to tell me, what I'm doing and how to do it, when I done prove what I'm doing is successful, I can't
Hmm.
go for it. So he backed out of it.
Yeah,
Now, I say that to say there's a lot of entertainers, rappers and singers that get caught up that same way when it comes to making music. The record labels tell them, look, we don't like this. We don't want that. Make this, make that. Hence, why we hear the type of music that we hear from a lot of artists. Why? Because they're paying you to say certain things. And unlike Dave Chappelle, there's quite a few artists that money overrides their integrity.
right.
So that's what we have here. Now, getting back to your question, when it comes to news and on social media, yeah, I've seen a lot of clickbait, as you said. I've
Yeah.
seen one particularly with Lennox Lewis saying Lennox Lewis was homeless.
Word.
Yeah, now maybe like 2 weeks before that, I saw my broadcasting a fight. So I'm like, man, in 2 weeks, I don't see the man being homeless in
Yeah,
2 weeks,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
But for views, because once you click on it, people get credit.
Yep.
So now it's about, look, I just got to lure you in.
Yeah.
Whereas when it comes to the media, as like what you said with Dave Chappelle, they they want to steer the narrative.
Yeah.
They want to give you a narrative that's comfortable for them, and a lot of times defaming certain people.
Right.
I mean, let's think about Puffy, for example. I mean, he got 4 years. Prior to that, they had him, hanging out there like they turned him from an overnight success into a vicious monster.
Yep.
Now, even beyond that, before they started that, then they started hitting with his sexual preference.
Yep.
So people, oh man, so you got people when you talk about gay stuff be saying no Diddy. You know what I mean? And basically, how many of us actually know him personally to say what he's doing behind closed doors? You know, for me, one of the most difficult things to prove is your sexual things.
Yeah.
Because that's between you and whoever you're doing it with, unless that person run and start telling or they get it on film, then it's your word against their word,
Right.
you know? So yeah, I really do believe, we as a society have to be very mindful and very careful when it comes to what we take in on social media as well as what we take in on the news. I definitely agree that we have to be mindful of that. And that's my take on it.
Okay. Um. Um. Some people believe that you should always be truthful. Some people believe that sometimes truth work for some people, lies work for other people. You know, if you're a good liar, you're a good liar. If you're a good person telling the truth, then you're good at telling the truth. But then then we got honesty. You know what I mean? And a lot of people forget about honesty. You rarely hear somebody saying honesty anymore. But it was a time when you heard it a lot. So with that being said, do you believe that honesty is always the best policy? And then
Um,
go ahead. While you talk, me turn this stove off.
yeah, yeah. What's up, Shakir? Hey, you know, that's something to think about. I mean, when it comes to spells, because spells is another way of conditioning. You know what I'm saying? It's another way of conditioning the way people think, conditioning the way people look at it. So television, hey, tell a lie to your vision. You know what I mean? Tell a lie to your vision. That's so yeah. I could go with what you're saying. A means of casting spells. But getting back to the question at hand, honesty, I would say, in in the moral aspect, honesty is the best policy.
Right.
When you're dealing with morality and you're dealing with uprightness and you're dealing with honor and loyalty and things of that nature, I would say honesty is the best policy. I think you know, and I think because a lot of people are not willing to be honest, it creates division.
Right.
It creates division, in one side because once a person lie to you, it makes it difficult for you to believe them when they're telling the truth.
Hmm.
So, I think we as a society need to practice more of being honest, keeping our word, things of that nature. You know, however, there's a flip side to being honest. Now, I think it has to be dealt with in certain times. Sometimes you may have to, and I'm not condoning lying. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that you have to lie. I'm saying that depending on a person's mental or emotional well-being, or just the way a person perception is about you or a certain situation, you have to be delicate with that honesty. It's necessary to be delicate with the honesty because you know what's his name, Jack Nicholson was like, you can't handle the truth. You know what I mean? On one of his movies.
Yeah, that's my movie.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, some people, and I think that's a true statement. Some people are unable to handle the truth, especially due to being fed a bunch of lies, a bunch of falsehoods. We've been lied to as a society for hundreds of years. You know what I mean? So when it comes to exposing lies and trying to change a lie that has been embedded in people for centuries or decades, telling the truth is like throwing a rock trying to break a bulletproof glass. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people have brought into the lie so severely that no matter how honest you is, even if they know you're honest, if you start being honest with them about something that they truly believe the opposite, then there's a good chance they're not going to accept your honesty.
Yeah,
You know, but yeah, I think honesty, should be implemented more than it is at this point in our society. I think it should be implemented more because it would even though people have difficulty handling it, I think overall a person respects you more when you're honest with them, rather than to tell them a lie. You know the saying like kiss a person with a lie or smack them with the truth. You know what I'm saying?
or what
So
they
that
say.
type of thing. What you think?
Um, just like it ain't. I say it ain't no love. Love ain't real. I don't think honesty is. Ain't no honesty left in this world. I think that so many people get by being dishonest, or think they getting by being dishonest, that the, they lost focus and they out of touch with honesty. I don't see it existing in the workplace, in relationships, in the celebrity world, um in the with the politicians. I think we like, the world is so far out of touch with being honest that people are just leading with with dishonesty. You know what I mean? Um, and it might be people who trying to be honest. It might be, but like I always say, I don't know where they at. Where they in the government? Um,
Well, you know that. You know they ain't there.
all right. So where they at in church?
And very few of them in there.
Okay, we follow me now. You doing good. You doing
Yeah, so
so where
yeah,
they where they where they where the rappers is rapping about stuff they ain't never did before.
right.
I'm just making a point. Like, so it's so much. On a serious note, it's just so much dishonesty going on. You know what I mean? Like that. If it's people out here who being honest, it's like a needle in a haystack, man. It's so much dishonesty going on, man. That's the way I feel about it. You know.
No, I agree, and I think like I said in the beginning, that being dishonest has become, as you reiterated, it has become woven into our society. You
That's
know,
what I'm saying.
yeah. So it's definitely something that's what promoted way more than being honest.
That's what I'm saying.
And it's making it that by being dishonest, you actually can get ahead.
That's what I said. That was the first thing I said.
So it's solidifying people desire to want to be dishonest rather than be honest.
Hey, you just reiterated what I just said.
You know,
and
yeah, yeah.
it's
So
sad, but it's the truth.
yeah, absolutely. And
I
I
mean, where is
wanted
it at
to,
in marriages?
right.
You know,
Yeah, I wanted to speak on it because it's something that we all need to consider. We
right?
all need to consider becoming better at it. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
that's a
I
fact.
mean, right. That's all I could suggest, that we become better at it. I don't truly, honestly expect a person to be honest 100% of the time. I don't expect it.
Right.
Being realistic, but you know, being more honest. Yeah, I expect that we could all try to be more honest with ourselves for one. You know what I mean? And with others, because a lot of times we're not even honest with ourselves, which is super sad.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah. So let's get to the next question.
It's on you or me.
It's on me for
Oh,
it's on me for you.
all right.
Now, let me see. Now, you know, being that we were talking about, you know, dishonesty, you know, um, earlier today, my nephew and I, we were going back and forth over, you know, religion, basically Jesus and his belief about Jesus and my belief about Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And my thing was, you know, for me, I I read the Bible and I read the Quran. He only reads the Bible, so my perspective varies. And I also said to him, none of us know anyone who died and came back and said what it was like, other than reading it in the Bible to say Jesus came back. And, you know, what did he really say about it? You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So my question is, if you could go back in time and witness any historical event, what would it be and why?
Mm. That's a good one. That's a good one. You got give me a couple of seconds to think about that.
Yeah. Contemplate it. Mow it around a little bit. You know, yes. It's good. It's good to think, man. Good. This is what we were saying earlier.
Well, I wouldn't. Let's narrow it down. I wouldn't. I wouldn't have wanted to be with Martin Luther King marching in a non-violent attack because they was getting brutalized and they didn't hit back. So I wouldn't have wanted to be there.
Okay.
I don't. I know I wouldn't have wanted to be back in slavery time because I think I wouldn't have lasted back there in slavery time. I would have probably thought I could get away some kind of way, like Kunta Kinte. So I wouldn't have been able to. I wouldn't have been able to be in that time. Um, I wouldn't want to be in the. It is a time I would think I wouldn't have mind being. I wouldn't have wanted to be in Malcolm X time because there was too much confusion going on between them, themselves. But if it is a time that I could think about that I would have loved to see after thinking about it, I would have loved to see the Black Panthers in action. I would have loved to see when they first stood up against the police in Oakland, California, Watts, and and they told them they had a right to bear arms, and it was nothing that the cops could do because it was the cops' law. They just read the law and and gave it back to them that everybody had a right to bear arms. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
constitutional right.
everybody had a constitutional right. So I think out of all the hysterical times, I would have loved to either been part of that or witnessed it, witnessed the Black Panthers in action. I probably would have been part of it though. I wouldn't have been. I wouldn't have been part of the problem. I would have been part of the solution. So that's a quick answer. What about you?
Wow. I mean, for me, my mind always go back to who were we and what were we prior to slavery. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if I was to go back, I would like to go back to those times when we basically controlled and owned uh, the majority of the earth. You know what I mean? Just to see what were we like. What was it like with us interacting with each other, us writing the laws, us dictating the laws, us
Right.
having people come to us, for what they wanted or needed,
Yeah.
you know, that type of thing. So my mind would go right back to that to be a part of just visualizing who were we and how did we interact before the world became European dominated.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Even though there are other entities, other nationalities that play a part, but it seems as though it's mostly European dominated because of the way the laws and the land and who's going at who and who's taking what. It's European dominated, I guess that's a pet peeve of mine of just being, everybody being equal, everybody having an opportunity to own, a part of land. This is why for me, I guess it was always so important to own a piece of land, own a house or something like that, because to have something of your own.
Yeah.
Because you know the saying, with Billie Holiday's song, "God bless the child who has his own." You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's just something of being in control of your destiny, being able to dictate what you will do, what you won't do, and how the laws will affect you and won't affect you. I think we since, so-called slavery, I think part of being enslaved was the fact that we had no control over the land.
Right.
You know, we have to pay another nationality for everything we want. And for me, Anybody, anybody who's European descent, anybody who consider yourselves white, how would you feel if you had to pay us? How would you feel if we were making the law? You know what I mean? How would you feel? So it's not about, you feeling like it's okay the way it is. It's about how would you feel if Jesus was black? If the picture of Jesus was black, how would you feel? Or Moroccan, as I say. It's time for us as a human family to just want the best for each other and want equality amongst each other and not be comfortable with one nationality being dominated or one nationality owning just about everything and controlling just about everything while another nationality has to scrape up whatever they can get, or get the leftovers.
Yep.
So yeah, that's my take. Kind of went a little, off with the topic, but that's what it brought me to.
That's it's all right. It's all right. All right. This is a question that you probably could ask a lot of people, and even though it's a simple question, a lot of people might not know the answers to it.
Mm.
It's a simple question to dissect. Now, the difference, I believe that everybody gonna have a different answer, or everybody gonna have a different feeling about it. But with that being said, to you, what is the
Right.
difference between civil rights and human rights?
All right. For me, civil rights was like, okay, in 1964, where, Martin Luther King had been fighting and all his constituents fighting for rights given to us by the
Right,
United States government. Those were civil rights. Those were rights that were had to be signed by the government to say
right,
that we had the right to be treated as every other human being. We had the right to, good schools. We had the right to ride in front of the bus, to go into restaurants that, Europeans wanted. Why that was important was because during those times, Europeans, aka white people, were attacking Moroccans, aka black people, when they went into their establishments, but they were able to come into aka black Moroccan establishments. So civil rights kind of supposedly, you know, made it a little more equal, I dare to say. Now, human rights is that your God given right, not your rights given to you by a government, not your rights given to you by a country, not your rights given to you by a state, but your rights that are given to you by God as a human being. You know what I mean? So each human being has the right, to be independent. You know, each human being has the right to choose how they want to worship, who they want to worship, or if they want to worship something.
yeah.
Each human being has the right to choose what they want to be called, what they want to be known as. So, you know, those type of differences. Um, and I pulled something up on GBT. It says a right to life, freedom from torture, freedom of thought, a right to education, and a right to health. That's a human right. Now, a civil right is enforced by domestic government and agencies. So it's kind of in line with what I was saying, Chat GBT, that we have allowed our human rights to be reduced to rights that is given to us by the United States and America. And, you know, when Martin Luther King was fighting, he was actually fighting for our rights to be equal in all things, you know? And I believe that, with one of his last speeches, the two Americas, he realized that, yeah, America and the United States signed off on the civil rights, but it hurted us more than it helped us. Why? Because ultimately we end up losing the very businesses and institutions that we once had prior to civil rights. We had our own schools. We had different businesses. You know,
Yeah,
hospitals and all. We had a lot of different things. And the other part was your great minds all stayed in the same neighborhoods. Similar to what we were talking about when we were saying, how would we be different if we grew up around lawyers and doctors and things of that nature? During that time, because the way America was designed, we all had to live in the same neighborhoods. We all had to
right.
live amongst each other. So, you know, yeah, the basic difference between human rights and civil rights is, as I said in the beginning, one is God given and one is man given. What do you think? What's your thoughts?
I mean, I had looked it up earlier too, and like they somewhat the same, but somewhat they're not. They not. I was just reading something too that they just said that civil rights is rights given to an individual by the government. Human rights is rights that all of us have as individuals, as humans. We all got rights. Like I guess the First Amendment rights, and we all got the same rights. So basically they just rights. You know what I mean? Like civil rights is rights that you get from the government, and human rights is rights that we all get as humans. You know what I mean? So that's the difference. That's the difference right there. That's
Yeah,
in a nutshell. The difference is civil rights is rights given to all of us in the world by the government. Human rights is something that we all are entitled to as individuals. Everybody is entitled to. So that's the difference. One of them is civil rights is the rights given to you by the government, and the human rights is rights that we all are entitled to, I guess, from the government.
right.
Um, you
And,
know,
and not even, and I look at it not so much even from the government, just from being, as you said, a human being.
right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
If every other human being has the right to govern themselves and claim a land and claim a nationality, then all human beings have the right to do the same. And then that's where international law comes in. See,
Yeah.
we have domestic law, which is what your country gives you the rights, as you said, civil rights. Then you have international law, where it's laws that keep everybody from, like, no one should be oppressed. No
Right.
one should be discriminated against. You know,
Yeah.
no one should be made to feel that they're less than another. These are, human rights.
Right.
That wasn't written on a paper, but should be written in your heart, in your mind.
Right. Right.
So that's my take on it.
Um.
All right, let's get to the next one. Now, now, as I was saying, I was had the conversation with my nephew, and we were going back and forth about Jesus, Muslims, Jews, because one of my things was, I was like, how did you become a Christian and you're following Jesus, when it says that the Bible says Jesus was Jewish? Why
Yeah.
aren't you a Jew?
Right.
His response was, the Jews killed Jesus. You know,
Yeah, I heard that before.
yeah, but in the Quran it says, Jesus didn't die. It was only made to appear that he died. So there's discrepancies when it comes to two of the major books. I
Right.
I want to get a hold of. I had a Torah, but I misplaced it, so I want to get me a new one so that I can actually get into that. Now, I say that to say, the question is, has religion become more traditional, or is it about a personal connection with God? Is it more about a personal connection with God? What do you think? Is it more tradition or personal connection with God? Which one would you say religion has become?
I say now it's a more personal connection with God. I'll say that. Um, only saying that because I'm from the late '60s and the '70s, where our parents made us go to church or made us go somewhere. So they
Right.
made us go because their parents made them go, and their parents made them go because their parents made them go. So I say it was more traditional back then. Now I'll say I know that if you find somebody that's serving God right now under whatever realm, Muslim, Christian, whatever, whatever, Baptist, whatever, I think it's because people got more connection with God because of the way the world is right now with the with the killings and the wars. And I mean it always been around, but I just think I know that it's more personal now because did your mother make you go to church?
Absolutely.
But you
Made
didn't
me get made
but
me
you
get
didn't make
baptized and sing in the choir.
but you see and you didn't make your son go to church.
No, no, I did take him to the mosque with me, though. I
Yeah.
did encourage him to come to the mosque.
Encourage, that's another word. Just like me. I grew up a Jehovah's Witness. I was made to go there, but I didn't try to force that on my kids. You know what I mean? So we can't say it's more traditional because you could call up 30, 40 people right now, and you might get one person to say they was made to go to church, so they make their kids go to church nowadays. So with some more personal thing inside yourself. What you think about that?
Um, I think there are a great number of people who ritualize religion. And when I say that, I mean people who go to church on Sunday, go to church, on, some people only go to church on Easter,
Yeah,
you know, that type of thing. So it's like, you know, and even with Islam, like, ritual of praying 5 times a day, fasting on Ramadan, you know, not eating pork. Those are rituals that you take on. Now, there are many people who go to church every Sunday, and there are many people who fast and pray, you know. However, my biggest thing is, how does it help you as an individual? How does it connect with your character when it comes to how you treat other people
right,
or how you present yourself? Because each of the religions that I mentioned pertains to believing in a higher power, in a higher power that created everybody. And if
right.
that higher power created everybody and has mercy for everybody, I find it somewhat hypocritical if, for those of us who believe in a religion and not be able to be kind, be considerate, be compassionate, be trustworthy, all of these things, that attributes that the higher power represents. So when it comes to that, I think, yes, the better connected we become to that higher power, the more we will uh, exemplify some of that behavior. And it also, I think, work vice versa. The more we start to exemplify a higher level of behavior, the more closer we will get to the higher power. Because if you robbing people, you busting people in the head, you're lying to people, you're stealing from people, you know, how close would you say you are to that higher power, you know,
Yeah,
or that God-like entity that that many of us uh, aspire to connect with? Because there are people who are just spiritual, who just connect with nature and what nature has to offer. And, just like for me, I believe we all are connected to nature, because how many times when you were younger and you heard older people say, "Oh, my bones hurt. It's about to rain." You know what I mean? My arthritis acting up. So if that's happening, then that tells you that there's some connection to nature.
yeah,
We have some connection to the universe. If your body can feel when it's about to rain, you know?
yeah. That's true.
So that's my take on
Um,
You know?
Yeah. I think it's your third question. I think.
Okay,
Right.
yeah. We right on time then.
Yeah. Right on time. Uh. Um. Belief. It was a long time ago. I used to didn't believe in that word, belief, but now I do. But a lot of people might, a lot of people might uh explain this word belief differently. But that's why this is a good question. Do you think that belief is based on truth or just feelings?
Uh, being being honest, I think it's based on a little of both. I think in most times to get someone to believe in something,
Right.
there has to be some sort of truth in it. I don't think you could just give people total falsehood and get them to believe in something. You
Right.
know, a lot of times it's like you there's usually evidence, whether it's written or whether you have seen something, witnessed something, or even heard about something that creates your belief in a certain thing or a certain situation, you know? And to what you were saying, when we were coming up, one of the things was when it came to belief, it was like, how can you be and leave at the same time? We used to say, we used to say that.
That's why I
So,
did. That's why I said I used to didn't believe in that word
right.
long
So,
time ago.
yeah. So I think to believe in something, it does require some emotion,
Right.
some faith. You know what I mean? Something, sometimes when it comes to faith, meaning that even though there's no evidence to support what you may believe you're capable of, you still believe in it because you have a emotional connection to what you're striving to do. For example, when you first wrote your book, there was really no evidence of how the book was going to come out.
Right.
You know, you hadn't written a book before, so it was like you just believed based on what you've seen around you and your experience with reading books, buying books, other people writing books. But for yourself, it was something new. So you had to believe before you even started writing, you had to believe that you were capable of writing a book.
Yep.
Without believing that you were capable of writing a book, how would you ever even written a book?
That's true.
You know? So I think, belief has its place, you know, and emotions have their place. And sometimes, yeah, I believe it gets a little murky when the beliefs are distorted for sometimes people personal gain, sometimes for control. You
Right.
know, I think that in, going back to religions, I think that many times in religions, you know, we've been, you know, uh, taught, convinced, and indoctrinated, with certain beliefs that creates control of us by others outside of ourselves. You know what I mean? So I think that's one of the downsides of beliefs. Believing in something where you just have only written evidence and no actual experience, and that's a downside. But in order to enhance your belief, most times you normally experience something. I mean, when people going back to religion again, when people get involved in religion and they see a change in their life for the better, it increased their belief. It increased their faith, you know, and which emotionally inspires them to do better and to do more and to believe harder. That's my take on it. What you think?
Um, I believe that it got. I mean, I guess belief. It got to be more. It got to be on your feelings. Something that you feel is right. Um, something that you know is wrong. But then again, it can be built on truth too, because it's not hard to know the truth. I mean, actual truth. You could read something in a Quran or the Old Testament or the Jewish,
Torah,
the Torah, or whatever. You
right?
could read something in it, you don't really know if it's the truth. You
Right.
just reading it and accepting it as the truth. So with that reading it, it gotta be a feeling. So I think that belief is more like a feeling of the truth than more of a true feeling. I believe it's more of a feeling that something is the truth. Yeah, that's what I say that about belief.
Okay.
It's really
So
hard to separate both of them.
right. So basically, a feeling of accepting something, even if there's very little evidence to say that is actually true
Right,
in
right,
some
right,
cases.
right. That's how I feel about that.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, and that's a part of belief, accepting, because in order to believe something, you got to accept it.
That's true. That's
You
true.
you got to accept. Okay, this is true.
Yeah,
So it requires acceptance as well.
that's a tough one. That's like what do you rather be feared or respected? So that's
Yeah.
something like it's something like it's to the individual how they looking at it and how they feel about it. You know.
Yes, how you interpret it. Okay, we got less than a minute left. You know, let the people know. Oh, well,
Now
about what
tomorrow
about
night,
yeah,
man.
yeah, about that. Yeah, I just thought about that. I just thought about we doing a new night now,
Yeah,
so we
just let
don't we
everybody know we gonna be
yes
on Thursdays now.
yeah. So it's gonna be Friday. So
But ain't you
again,
going away?
huh?
Ain't you gonna miss a couple of shows? You said you was going away.
Yeah. I'm gonna be gone for the 25th into the 7th. So I'm going to miss a few shows. So I want you all to be safe, be loving, and be kind. And I thank you all for taking the time out of your Thursday night to spend it with us. And for that, we're grateful. Until the next time we meet again, I leave you all with peace.
Yes, peace. Until the next week.